What's up, guys? We are back. New York Muscle Radio, the #1 fitness podcast on the planet. It's your host, Anthony Bevilacqua, alongside my co-host, Big Pete Kacharian. And today we're going to be discussing the bedtime ritual. Do this at bedtime to build more muscle. Something that we've never spoken about before, which I'm actually excited to get into because it's a topic that we haven't, we know each other all these years. I really don't know what you do pre-bed. So as from a muscle building standpoint, I should say. You know, all those other activities I don't want to know about, but pre-bed, muscle building wise, we're going to get into it today. So I'm excited because hopefully we'll drop some hints to everybody listening to this and some tips, and they could use it and apply it and build more muscle. So what's going on, man? How you doing, Big Pete?
I'm good, man. This is an interesting topic, and I like changing it up a little bit too, because I've spoken to you about this a little bit before. A lot of stuff we talk about and everything in bodybuilding and in fitness, it becomes redundant. And when I say it's redundant, it's because, you know, the basics work. That's what we always talk about. And there's only so much you can get from reiterating the same information. A lot of times people take that and it becomes information overload, you know? And people love trying to find new ways to do things and love coming up with new and cool ways to do it. But a lot of times you have to go back to the basics. And, you know, there's only so much you can say repeatedly over and over again. And I like trying to get more information out there that's a little bit beyond the basics. So something like this is a really cool topic.
So I still have a question. And I had a listener actually message me and ask me and tell me they had a suggestion for the name. So we talked about this, I think it was 2 podcasts ago, but what we would rephrase flexible dieting to.
Great.
Have you thought of a name?
I haven't.
No one knows.
No.
He said moderate dieting, so shout out to David for that one. But
well, see, the thing is, the original name for flexible dieting, before I think they even gave it that term, was everyone just said IIFYM.
Which I hate that acronym.
That acronym came from the message boards where somebody would write a question and it would say like, hey, can I fit a Pop-Tart into my diet? And someone would get tired of just writing, yeah, if it fits your macros, and eventually it just became IIFYM. And that was essentially associated with Pop-Tarts and like all the junk foods and everything like that. So when you said IIFYM, people assumed that meant eating Pop-Tarts and eating junk. So then people who tried to make it a little bit more mainstream came up with the name flexible dieting. And I think that's a great way to describe it. You know, that's how I would describe it. But again, flexible dieting then became associated with that same scenario. Oh, can I fit Pop-Tarts into my diet? If somebody asks me, can I fit Pop-Tarts into my diet? I'll tell them yes. But if you're trying to get the most out of your diet, there's better ways to do it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't just say yes.
You know, and this is the cool part about nutrition. It's so varied based on person to person.
Yeah, it depends.
You know, and we were just talking about this off air. But we were talking about getting more potassium in our diet, and in order to hit the potassium that I need to have 5 bananas a day. And then calorically, that's kind of like a waste.
Right.
You know, but then you have to look at, and this is the cool part about just nutrition in general, is then you start to look at the different foods and say, okay, well, what has more potassium than this?
Right.
All right, potatoes is one, kiwis another, and things like that, and starting to find those different foods. That's really what flexible dieting really, really is.
Exactly.
And people mistake it for Pop-Tarts. But we haven't come up with a name yet, but we have to. And then we have to brand it as our own, and that's what we're going to go with. It has to be a cool name, though.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, man, and I hate to speak things into existence of myself, but I am not good at making up names. I'm not original with coming up with names.
Right.
My names are always, look at the name of this podcast, New York Muscle Radio.
Where did that come from?
I don't know. I don't even know.
It just popped into your head.
Yeah. I'm you know what? I live in New York. It's about muscle. It's a radio show. New York Muscle Radio. And it kind of just stuck, but
sometimes simplicity is best. You know?
I really think we could have thought of I could have thought of a better name, but whatever, neither here nor there. But so yeah, I'm relying on you for this one, man. So whatever name you come up with, I'm gonna take it and run with it. So just an FYI. But I'll give you credit. I'll give you credit where credit is due. So I want to talk about, and this is a cool topic, and I'm trying to move closer to you because the angle here. But eating out on vacation. Now is the time of year. Summer's rolling around here. 4th of July is coming up this weekend. What do you do when it comes to vacation and eating out and things like that? What happens to the diet? I think we should give the listeners our strategies as far as what to do when it comes to eating out.
Yeah, well, again, if you bring it back to the actual dieting recommendations that we follow, as far as, whatever you want to call it, we're not going to give it a name today, but the strategies that we use, If you kind of understand the principles, doing things on the fly becomes much easier. And a lot of times people don't look for principles, they look for just tell me exactly what to do. And yeah, that can work, but until you run into a scenario like you said, you're out, you're at a party, you're eating out at a restaurant, it's not going to have the exact option that you had on your plan. Now you have to think on the fly, and people lose that ability to think on the fly because they don't follow principles, they follow the actual plan. So everything I do is based on principles, So if I know I need to get a certain amount of calories, a certain amount of protein, carbs, fats, and again, if we're talking about micronutrients, if we're talking about potassium, things like that, great example of how you could take flexible dieting and go deeper with it. If I know, okay, I need a certain amount of protein, carbs, and fats when I go out, but I also know I'm aiming to hit a certain amount of micronutrients, I need fiber, I need potassium, that's going to make me pick choices in the diet or on the menu that have those things in them. So like if I need protein and carbs, let's say, but I also need to hit a fiber intake goal, I need to hit a potassium intake goal, I'm probably going to choose something like a steak, a potato, and broccoli, let's just say.
Well, hold on, wait, I want to just stop, pause for a second. When he's talking about that, doesn't mean that's necessarily the case for everybody.
No.
Like for me, I don't really need to worry about potassium, so that's not something that I would look for when I'm going out to eat. For me, it's more like protein intake and whatever, but I'll cover that in a second. Just go ahead and continue.
You can apply that to any scenario. So if you go in there, let's just say you are following, people like to talk about keto diets, people, that's like a big thing people like to follow. Let's just say you're following a keto diet, okay, the principle is I need a certain amount of protein and a certain amount of fat. You're going to pick things off the menu that meet those goals. You know what I mean? And, if your plan just says I have to eat this and you don't know how to think about it on the fly, you're going to say, well, they don't have it on the menu, so I guess I'll order pizza.
Yeah.
And that's what most people do.
Yeah.
But if you understand the principles, you can apply it to any scenario.
Yeah, I think, one of the things when you're out to eat, people look for, they ask these questions and then they're like, oh, well, I'm out to eat right now. They don't have what the strategy that you said you'd recommended. They don't have grilled chicken on the menu, so I'm just going to get, and then they end up getting like the opposite thing.
Right.
So it's like, you're out, you get flustered because you don't know what to order. They don't have the things that you want on the menu. So just F it, and then you have anything that you want. And that's where I think it becomes problematic when you're out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And remember, any restaurant will modify anything that you ask for. So if they have a chicken dish on the menu, they'll modify that for you. So listen, can I have it grilled? More than likely nowadays, they'll definitely modify it for you.
Yeah, and a good thing to do when you're making those decisions, if you don't know what the right choice is, you just ask yourself, okay, if on my plan I'm supposed to be eating, let's just say chicken and rice or chicken and broccoli, whatever it is, ask yourself, okay, why am I eating chicken and broccoli? And then the answer, if you dig a little deeper, is okay, we're going for a protein source, we're going for maybe a low calorie filler just for something for satiation purposes, so we're going to fill that meal with some broccoli, So then you make your decision based on the menu. Okay, what is the highest protein content food in here? That's all.
When it comes to actually like dieting out and when you're on vacation, like what are the strategies that you use? So one of the things, and I really implemented this the last time I went away to Florida with the family, was, Uber Eats was really, really helpful actually. So one of my favorite places to eat out is Chick-fil-A, regardless of where it is. It's really easy to do well at Chick-fil-A. The grilled chicken nuggets are really good. They have the grilled chicken sandwich. So utilizing, a little kitchenette inside the hotel room that we had was clutch because obviously you can make breakfast there. You go to the store. We had Amazon. Like Amazon has like food delivery. So we delivered food to the room. So like grocery stuff. So I didn't have to go food shopping. I delivered it to the room. So I had my breakfast there. I was able to prepare lunch, and then dinner obviously we ate out. But like I said, utilizing Chick-fil-A, having those grilled chicken nuggets and things like that was able to help me hit my protein intake. And that was probably the best I've ever done on vacation as far as getting really, really close to my goals and being in control of what I was actually eating. Because most of the time we go on vacation, we just kind of shut off, right? We're like, I'm on vacation, whatever. And you kind of loosen up a little bit, which is cool, and it's okay to do that. It's not like a bad thing, but you just want to prevent yourself from overdoing it. Because a couple of days on vacation, you could really screw everything up, even if you're all good.
Of course, yeah.
Because most of these places just cook with oils and everything is added calories.
You're ordering what you're ordering, you're getting something else also.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing when you go away is plan ahead and don't go somewhere where you don't have control over it. You know, like if you go to an all-inclusive resort, you're pretty much stuck with eating whatever it is they're going to serve you. You know, so if you like you said, if you could take those extra steps and get a place that has a kitchenette, you know, you're in a place where you could actually order food. You know, you go to an all-inclusive resort, it's not like you're going to be ordering Uber Eats, to the resort.
Well, if you want to talk about that, I've been to those places all the time. What do I do when I go there? I always bring my protein powder with me. I always bring it with me. That's like my breakfast all the time. The 2 scoops, I bring it with me, and that always helps me. And then you just have to see. I think the thing is when people go to an all-inclusive resort, they put in their mind it's all-inclusive. So I can eat everything. Right. I'm supposed to eat everything.
And they want to get their money's worth. So they're like, I paid for all this. I'm going to eat till I'm stuffed.
Yeah.
I'm not going to eat till I'm content.
You want to get your money's worth? You have to make sure that you tell them, like, hey, look, I want this cooked this way. Like, they'll do it for you, too. They don't care. The last time I went to an all-inclusive resort, what I would do for breakfast is, because breakfast is, like, the worst, right? Especially at, like, those places. Because what do they have? Pancakes, this, that, and the other thing. The egg white, like, omelet station. They'll give you egg whites, but it's like pouring oil all over the place.
There's probably more oil in the egg whites.
They hate me when I go to those places. Yeah. So I always tell them I want hard-boiled eggs, and I fill up a bowl of hard-boiled eggs.
That's like the only option, actually.
Yeah. So actually what I was doing was I start with the big bowl of hard-boiled eggs. Huge bowl. Like 10, 20 egg whites. So I start with that. By the time I'm done peeling that, and it takes like a lot of time, you know, everybody else is usually like done eating by the time I finish the egg whites. Then I'll go and I'll get like a huge plate of watermelon because it's super low in like calories, and it'll keep me fuller longer. And like I try to get things that are not cooked, but like things that are like that, like watermelon, pineapple, like that kind of food where it's not like over calorie dense. Because you're gonna those extra calories are gonna sneak in no matter what.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
so that's like a really good strategy to use too, and just like using more of those like filler foods. And I actually did a video on my channel of like 9 foods that are like kind of filler foods that help you stay full when you're dieting. And those foods, like, you know, again, if you're going to an all-inclusive resort, they always have a salad bar. So just putting that huge plate of like lettuce in front of you and just eating that huge thing of like lettuce just to fill up your stomach first makes a huge difference, because then you're not going back there like, all right, I'll get the chicken palm hero for lunch.
Right. Yeah, you never want to be in a position where you're starving either.
No.
You know, especially when you're out. You know, it's easy when you're on vacation to go however many hours between meals and not realize it. You know, you might have a normal routine at home where you eat, 3, 4, 5 meals a day. Very easy when you go on vacation, eat breakfast, go out for the day, come back and it's dinner time. And the last thing you're thinking about is, can I get egg whites? You know, can I get that cooked with no oil? You know, you're going to go in there, you're going to be hungry, you're going to say, whatever you got, give it to me, I got to eat.
Yeah.
That's the situation most people run into.
Yeah, and you have to just control yourself. I think that's one of the things. You have to control yourself and get out that negative talk. Because like even like I'm talking about this now with you, and in my mind I'm like, you're on vacation.
Right. Yeah, it's easy to put, especially when you're surrounded by people that you're with who want to embrace that I'm on vacation mentality. You know, so if you're the only one in the group that says I want to stick to my diet while I'm on vacation, it becomes more difficult. But I got to tell you, I mean, I'm sure you experienced this too. I feel worse when I embrace that mentality. I'm on vacation. I'm going to eat whatever I'm going to eat.
Oh, way worse.
Then I feel worse. So I actually feel better keeping the mentality. I want to eat good on my vacation. I want to feel good on my vacation. Why would I want to binge eat and feel worse? Yeah, it's going to ruin my vacation.
Right, because then you're going to not feel good. Your stomach's going to bother you, and then you're going to have like the side effect of like, I feel so fat, and then you're going to be in a bathing suit, and you're like, man, I feel like the fattest person on the beach.
Right.
And people are going to be like, they have a disorder.
But everybody else on the beach is going to be sitting there with their eggs and their pancake in their stomach saying, I feel great.
Yeah. Well, this is a good transition into the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which are cheat meals. No one talks about cheat meals, man. But if you search the hashtag, and I just did it just to clarify my numbers, if you search the hashtag cheat meals, 4.2 million posts on cheat meals. 4.2 million. So people like, I feel like that was like a trend that like started and stopped, but people still have this mentality of having cheat meals. So I wanted to talk about the negatives of a cheat meal, maybe some positives of the cheat meal, and how to kind of break that habit. And also, if the listeners haven't noticed, I've been dieting, so it's been a lot of food talk. Yeah, more food talk. All right, so let's break it down. Cheat meals, man.
Well, the thing is, you pointed out that there's that many hashtags for cheat meals, and most people who don't even diet have cheat meals. That's the point, you know, and to them that's still a cheat meal. That's the crazy thing, you know. You have their normal diet, which is our cheat meal, and then they have cheat meals, you know. But if we're talking about it strictly for fitness and bodybuilding goals, cheat meals, that's kind of where that whole idea originated, you know, because you have a diet that you follow, and then the term cheat meal implies that you're having something that's not part of that normal diet, but also people incorporate cheat meals into a diet. They call it a cheat meal, but really when you structure it into the diet, it's no longer a cheat meal, it's part of the diet. So you have to be very specific about what you mean when you say the term cheat meal. But anyway, if we're talking strictly from like a bodybuilding and fitness standpoint, when we say cheat meal, we're going to assume it's something off the diet plan. That can help when dieting. I like a more structured approach, and I always tell people, you know, if I'm having a cheat meal, that means I'm not paying attention to anything. The calories, the protein, the carbs, I'm just eating, just eat. And I think to be a human being, of course, we're all going to have times where we just say, hey, listen, you know, I'm in the mood for pizza today, I'm going to eat pizza. How often do we do that? I might do that once or twice a year, let's just say. But I'm not going to regularly once a week say I'm going to have a cheat meal. And if you want to incorporate a cheat meal into your diet, let's say you're dieting, calories are low, you need a refeed, doing a more structured approach where we say, listen, I'm going to increase my carbohydrates for a day, I'm going to have high carb days, I'm going to have refeed days that are structured and accounted for, that's part of the plan. And I think always sticking to a diet that's structured is going to be more beneficial than having something that you're not controlling. If you just say, go out, eat whatever you want, you don't know how much you eat. Was it more than you needed? Was it even enough, too? In many cases, you can tell somebody, go have a cheat meal, and they'll say, okay, you know what, all I had was had a little bit of ice cream for dessert. You might not even have raised your calories as much as you intended when you said, listen, you're very depleted, you need a high calorie source. That's why structured eating is much better.
I mean, yeah, exactly. That was my point when I wanted to bring this up too, and say, like, I think when people say I'm having a cheat meal, it's a mentality of I'm just eating whatever the hell I want.
Right.
And that is worse, because even one cheat meal that's not structured is horrible.
Right.
And I'm not saying structured in the sense of like, okay, I want this meal. So for example, I have a wedding coming up, right? So obviously I want to be able to eat at the wedding, right? So I'm going to kind of like loosely, intuitively eat at the wedding, right? But just even saying the term like, I'm going to go to the wedding and I'm going to have a cheat meal, I'm automatically setting myself up for, all right, it's time to cheat. It's time to eat anything I want in as much quantity as I want to, and do it until I feel content.
Right.
Which is like three things that are horrible when it comes to cheat meals. So I think it's the mentality that people have, because people have the mentality like, okay, yeah, when I diet, I'm supposed to have a cheat meal because of all the reasons that you said. It spikes your metabolism. It's good to do, for your metabolism. It helps in the fat loss process. But they throw the structure portion of it out the window.
Problem, yeah.
And that's where it becomes a problem. So it's more like the mentality around having a cheat meal, in the sense like people say, okay, I'm going to eat anything and everything. I'm going to have ice cream, I'm going to have hamburgers, I'm going to have this, I'm going to have that. And it becomes like, essentially like, not an eating disorder, but like...
It's disordered eating.
Yeah, exactly. Good way to put it. It's disordered eating, which is way worse.
Yeah. And you have to ask yourself again, just like I said earlier when we were talking about, why are we picking certain food choices off the menu when we eat out? The same thing. If you're going to have a cheat meal, you have to ask yourself, what is this cheat meal? What's the purpose of it? What is it serving? If it's serving in a situation where, let's say, you're severely depleted, you've been dieting for so long, your body needs a little bit of refeed, we want to keep that metabolism boosted, so we want to add some more carbohydrates back in, some high calories, just to spike that metabolism a little bit. Having a calculated cheat meal is a good option. But that doesn't mean having a unlimited binge fest, and that's going to do more damage than good. So when somebody tells you, I'm going to have a cheat meal, or they recommend that you have one, you have to ask, okay, what's the reason for this? If it's to stimulate my metabolism, it's going to make sense for me to put a cap on it, to get so the purpose of a cheat meal in most cases, which people don't understand, is if you're doing it strictly to boost your metabolism, you want that cheat meal to be primarily carbohydrates. Fat's not really going to do much to stimulate metabolism. You're already eating a high protein diet if you're doing things the way you should be. Carbs are going to be the biggest thing that's going to boost those hormones, that's actually going to help stimulate your metabolism more. So if you're going out and you're having a cheat meal and it's primarily all high fat, some people go out and they say, I have a cheat meal and I'm having wings, that, you're eating a ton of calories, but you're getting protein and fat mostly. I mean, of course you're getting carbs too, but like, as opposed to saying I'm going to have chicken and rice, you know what I mean? So again, you could make the wrong decision with a cheat meal just as easily as you can make a wrong decision with a healthy meal.
Yeah, and I would say somebody listening to this is probably saying like, well, how do you guys have that mentality around food? Like, how are you able to control yourself around food? And I think one of the major things I got into when I got into nutrition too was to be able to understand like how food controls my body and how I'm actually in control of what I'm eating and what I'm doing and what I'm putting into my body, and not the other way around. And I think people kind of don't have that control yet, and that just comes with time.
Yeah.
Like, somebody listening to this right now is saying like, wow, Pete's really dedicated. It's not that he's dedicated to it, and I'm not like poking at you. It's not that he's dedicated to it. It's just that he's done this for so long that it's just become second nature to him to look at it in terms of like, okay, what are the benefits I'm actually going to get out of this? Because if you just went hog wild, you're going to have more negative experience in that than you would a positive experience from a body composition standpoint, from a mental standpoint, from a physical standpoint at that too.
Yeah.
So, having and understanding the negative consequences of going into it.
Yeah.
And I know some people are probably sitting there listening to this saying like, yeah, but dude, you need a break. Like, you need a break. You need to be able to break. And yes, that's definitely a valid point. But as to what negative is going to come with that break. Think about it. So, okay, I'm dieting really hard right now. Trying to get as lean as possible. I go and I eat whatever the hell I want, right? I have a huge day of eating whatever, right? Now, what happens? Like, my weight's going to shoot up. I'm going to feel like crap the next day. It's going to take me at least a week or two to get back to baseline to where I'm at. Is that worth it? Right. And I guess if it is for you, like, so obviously if you have a wedding or whatever and you deem it necessary at that wedding, then you have to outweigh that consequence. Because I'll go through periods of time where, so perfect example, 4th of July, we're having a big barbecue. I don't plan on going hog wild, but I don't plan on being diligent with my numbers that day. I'm going to be loose. If I want a little bit of this, I'm going to have this. I'll probably go a little bit overboard. But I'm like willing to do that, and I'm at the stage right now, like dieting wise, where it's not going to really hinder me that much.
Right.
So there's definitely a balance.
Yeah, and it's calculated. You determine that you're at the point right now where your body can definitely handle a larger increase in calories and it not do much of a negative impact on your body. Once you hit a certain amount of time that you've been dieting, how deep into the diet, the more your body can handle those larger increases in calories and it not store as fat, it not have any negative consequences. If you're 2 weeks into a diet and you say, I want to have a binge fest, you're going to get all the negatives that come with it and none of the benefits. Now, if you're 6 months into a diet and you say, listen, I need a bit of a refeed, I'm not going to go all out, but I need to put some more calories in my body to stimulate my metabolism, to fill my muscles out, to increase my performance, and for the mental benefits that come with it. You can have a structured cheat meal and you're going to get all the benefits and none of the negatives. Or if you get any negatives, they're going to be very little.
Right.
So you need to assess what type of pros and cons you're going to get from every decision you make with your nutrition. And that's one of the reasons for me that it's so easy as well. Like you said, just doing this for as long as I've done it, that makes it very easy for me. But as I've gotten even older and I've gotten a little more wiser with my nutrition too, I also assess the pros and the cons that come with it, even beyond, just having the experience of doing it. So everything I look at is, okay, what's the pro and con for this? What's the trade-off that I'm going to get? In many cases, if I'm like, I need a break, even if we're just going to use it for that aspect, the mental break, because again, if that's the reason, that's going to usually take priority over all the other things. So if you're like, I just need a break, you're not going to worry about the cons so much. But if I need a break, I'm still going to make a decision that's going to give me the most pros and the least amount of cons. So like for me, if I just say, listen, I haven't ate carbs, I'm craving carbs all the time, I need a mental break, I'm going to say, listen, I'm going to go order food, I'm going to get chicken and rice, but I'm going to get like two or three orders of rice. I'm not going to go out and I'm not going to have burgers, fries, pizza. That's different. I'll get a better break mentally from eating those extra carbs, feeling full. Like my stomach will be full. I'll feel great. I'll feel satiated. And then I'm going to get the benefits of it, boosting my metabolism, filling out my muscles, increasing my performance. And I'm going to feel great after that, opposed to eating that cheat meal and then it ruining my workout the next day. I'm going to be sluggish and mentally I'm not going to feel good. So, having enough experience and, enough reference points doing this over and over again to know that that's going to be the outcome makes the decision that much easier.
Yeah. So I think we beat up cheat meals pretty good, man. But I just wanted to touch on that because I can't believe that's like still a thing. And people people wear that as a badge of honor.
Oh yeah.
I'm having a cheat meal today, and they're very excited to have a cheat meal.
It's like the same thing when people go out to the bar, and they're like, why aren't you drinking? It's like, we're at a bar, we got to drink, and it's like, no, but like I came out to socialize, I didn't come out to drink.
Yeah.
If you want to have some drinks while you go out and socialize, fine, but that shouldn't be the reason that you're out.
Right. One of the questions that we get all the time is, hey, Pete, and you're going to go crazy, but hey, Pete, So if I do chest on Monday, legs on Tuesday, back on Wednesday, am I going to grow?
Right.
So we have to touch on this, and I kind of want to put a nail in the coffin on this, and I think that we summarized this. We talked a little bit about this before, but I'm going to summarize that is your split building muscle? The answer is your split does not actually build muscle.
No.
It does not actually build the muscle. So it doesn't matter if you do chest on Monday, if you do a full body on Monday, if you do squats on Monday, or if you put your chest work before your back work, your split, I'm going to repeat this slow. Your split does not build muscle.
No, it doesn't. And the way I do like to discuss the topics of splits because they are very important and not something to be overlooked, but that shouldn't be the question that you're asking. If they say, is this split good? That's not the correct question. The correct question is, this is the workout, this is the training. Is the way I'm organizing the training the best way to do it? That should be the question, because let's say you're following, some people just say, this is my split. It doesn't tell me what you're doing in the gym. Let's say you're following a very high volume program. You got to do, let's just say, I'm just going to use an example, a minimum of 20 plus sets of body part. 20 plus sets a week per body part. Let's just say that's the minimum.
I was going to say a workout. What are you naming my workout?
Yeah, no, we're not even going to go that far with it. That's what you're doing. And then they say, okay, I'm doing, whatever it is. Chest on Monday, legs on Tuesday, back on Wednesday, whatever the split is, one body part per week. I'll tell them, listen, if you're doing that type of volume, that's probably not the best way to split. Same time, if somebody comes in and they say, listen, I'm doing full body workout 3 times a week and I'm doing 20 sets of body part, I'm going to say that's definitely not the way to do it either, because what are you talking about doing 100 sets of workout, But if somebody says, hey, I'm doing a full body workout, and I look at it and the plan makes sense for 3 full body sessions, I say that's great. There's no reason to go to a body part split. So any of the splits you choose can work, but it has to work within the training that you're doing. The split's just a way of organizing the training. So if you're training very advanced, the split needs to get very advanced. If you're training very basic, the split can be very simple.
Yeah, what's going to actually grow muscle is going to be your volume, how much weight you're lifting, how many reps you're doing it, how many sets you're doing, all that is very, very important, and the intensity at which you train.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if you do one body part a week, full body every day, upper, lower, push, pull, all these different things. None of that matters. As long as those 2 variables that I just said are in line, you're going to build muscle.
Yeah.
That's it. It doesn't matter how you break it down.
No.
It's just the packaging at that point.
Right, exactly. And the other, you can go as deep as saying, everyone will ask about every little variable. The split is just one thing people ask about. They ask about the sets, the reps, how much volume, this, that, and the other thing. But the only thing you need to measure is progress at the end of it, So if you're doing everything that doesn't sound like it's optimal, but progress is happening, you're doing things optimally for you because you're progressing. You know what I mean? We just need to see progression.
It was so funny. We had a client come into the gym, and again, our clients, we deal with more like, people who want to lose weight and reshape their body and things like that. So we had someone come in and they're like, Anthony, I've been doing the same routine for months now, and that was she was concerned. So I said, well, are you making progress?
Right, exactly.
And she stopped and kind of looked at me, and she's like, yeah. I'm like, you hit 275 on deadlifts the other day, trap bar. That's progress, right? She's like, yeah. I'm like, so if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Why would you change it?
And she had an epiphany when I said that to her, because she's like,
forget that.
Huh.
People forget that.
People just think they need to change things just to change things. But if something's working and you're getting the results, you want to eke that out as long as you can.
I wish I could do the same plan and not have to change it. I wish. You know what I mean? But, when you get to a certain point, your body's going to not respond as easily as it did in the beginning, so you're going to have to get a bit more complicated with it. You're going to have to take a more proactive approach to your training, to your nutrition. But yeah, I mean, as long as progress is happening, all the other variables don't matter, People hear oh, you should be doing this amount of volume, this is optimal, you should be training this amount of times per week, or whatever it is. Even with nutrition, you should have this amount of protein, this amount of carbs. That's just to get you to the end result. If you're making progress and you're moving towards that end result, I wouldn't change anything. Sure, you can make things better, but when we're talking about training specifically, if you're getting any type of progress, you don't want to change it. There's no reason to.
No. I've been utilizing full body splits. So my routine is basically arms, full body, full body, arms like that. It kind of repeats like that, and I actually like it a lot. I actually really like it a lot. You're not really fatiguing one muscle at a time. It's very easy to get in a lot of volume that way. Have you ever done that, full body routine?
Yeah, for my best results from an extended period of time where I did full body routine is I did full body rest, full body rest. So it's a full body day followed by a rest day. So I like that setup because you're getting 100%, well, you're getting an exact a proportionate ratio of training to rest.
Yeah.
So it's almost impossible, no matter how hard you train in those training days, to get so fatigued that your training needs, deload breaks, things like that, and you need to adjust things because you're resting just as much as you're training. I think that's one of the benefits of full body training is you can keep that frequency high. If you're doing a body part split where you're resting every single day between training, it's not really going to work well.
You also get stronger with your movements because you're doing one movement a day. So you're definitely getting stronger in that movement for that week. Yeah. I like it a lot, actually. I used to poo-poo it, but I actually like it a lot. I actually think it's really good. It's a good way for me, especially to get more volume in without being in the gym for hours. And I definitely think it's a more optimal routine to do. Despite what others may think, I think it's definitely a more, but again, it depends. Everybody's a little bit different. For me, I need to get more volume in. So how do I get more volume in utilizing something like that? Whereas somebody else, like me personally, I would never be able to do that. I don't think that would work for me. Full body off. I don't think it would.
Well, there's something to be said for sure, and this is something a lot of people don't talk about, is catering the training plan to the personality type as well. Because training is such an important thing to change the way your body looks. So the training is so important to build muscle, obviously. If you don't do that properly and stimulate muscle growth, it doesn't matter what you're doing with your nutrition as far as building muscle. If we're talking about fat loss, it's a little bit different. But if you're trying to grow muscle, the training has to be producing some type of stimulus for your body to follow that up with. So if you're not training in a way that produces that stimulus, you're basically just spinning your wheels. And if you're the type of person that hates training a certain way, and I tell you have to train this way, you're not going to put the same intensity into it. You're not going to put the same consistency into it. So even if it's the most optimal way to do things, you're not going to see optimal results because you're not applying what needs to be applied to make it happen. So there can be a case where we say, listen, this is not the best way to train, but because you love training this way and we change a few things about it to make it a little bit better, and you love it, so you apply 100% effort and consistency to it, you're going to get better results doing that than doing what's quote-unquote optimal, but not giving it 100% effort.
I don't remember the study that they did. I don't remember the name of the study and who did it and whatever, but it was on steroids, actually. That's what it was on. So it was on steroids, and they gave people placebo pills and told them they were on steroids. And the placebo effect was so strong that these people got steroid-like results. So I think there's something to say about placebo effect, period.
100%.
So if you literally convince yourself that this routine, so let's say they go to GetStrongNow.com, OldSchoolMuscleGain.com, that's what it is?
Old School Mass Gain.
Oh, sorry, OldSchoolMassGain.com. And they picked up our routine and they said, I'm going to get the best benefits from this.
I found the best routine on the planet.
They are going to get insane results because they mentally told themselves that.
Exactly.
So if they literally did 6 to 8 weeks of Old School Mass Gain, then switch to Get Strong Now, then go back and forth between the two, they'll get the best of both worlds. But if they tell themselves nah, that routine's not going to work, they're not going to get anything out of it.
Work.
So placebo effect is a real thing.
Yes.
And I really wish that someone would just tell me Anthony, hey, here you go. This is the one that's going to work.
Right.
But if I don't believe it, it's not going to do it. So I'm telling you, if you go to GetStrongNow.com and OldSchoolMassGain.com, you're going to get those results. It's just that simple.
And that's the biggest thing about, when you suffer from...
Hey, Bentley.
And that's the thing, I mentioned earlier when people suffer from information overload. Talking about when I mentioned earlier, people suffer from information overload, and that's a real problem, So one of the biggest things that I think, and this applies beyond bodybuilding and fitness, any area of your life that you want to have more success in, if you try to just gather so much information, a lot of people think I need more information that's going to help me. You could find yourself in that state where you just okay, I have all this information, now I don't know what to do with it, or this person says this is the best way to do it, this person says this is the best way to do it, but they're conflicting. What do I do? The best thing you can do in that situation is you just make a decision, you say I'm picking this method, I'm going to follow this 100%, I'm going to forget about everything else, and I'm going to give it 100% effort. Or working with a coach is such a big thing to do because, and an important thing to do because if you just say, listen, I understand all these different people, they have different philosophies, they have different ideas. Some of them sound like they work, some of them sound great, but some of them conflict. If you just pick one person and you're like, listen, I'm just going to listen to what Pete says, or I'm going to listen to what Anthony says, and I'm just going to follow it 100%, you're going to get way better results, even if what they're telling you to do is not the best way to do it. And that's the reason, people get into arguments over the internet sometimes with different coaches. They say, like, his methods suck. They'll say, like, he's doing it wrong, but, I don't know why people follow him. But if he's getting those people results, it's because they're putting 100% effort into those methods. They're trusting the process. They're not getting distracted by other things. You can be going to the best coach, but if you're still looking around the internet and you're like, listen, my coach tells me to do this, but then I watched this YouTube video where the guy told me, no, don't do that. And then you're half-assing it, you're doing all these different things. Even though your coach is telling you the best thing to do, you're not applying it the right way, you're not going to get those results. So
Agreed.
Sticking to that one thing, whatever it is, and just trusting the process, that's going to get you those results.
Agreed 100%. So let's get into it, man. The most successful day is going to start the night before. So this is an interesting topic that I was really excited to talk about today. Pre-bed. Like, what happens pre-bed in order to gain as much muscle as possible, be as lean as possible, and really, really recomp your body? What do you need to do the day before and pre-bed in order to get better results and that extra 1%? Because that is an overlooked thing.
Oh, yeah.
Most people, I mean, if you want to talk about like just successful people in general, most people plan out their day. Their time is not lollygagged around.
No.
They don't wake up in the morning without a plan on what they have going on for the day. Everything is structured. And when it comes to building muscle and recomping your body and losing body fat and getting stronger, same applies. You have to have a structured time. Okay, I'm training every day at this time. I go to bed every day at this time. It has to be like that same kind of structure. But there are certain things that I do at night before bed, and certain things I'm sure you do at night before bed that will help facilitate those processes and make muscle building easier, make recomping easier, make recovering easier. So let's start with yours, man. So let's hear it then. What did you do last night?
Yeah.
What goes on?
Well, I would again, it's funny how, I don't know if it's just the way my mind works or if other people see it this way, but whenever we talk about different topics or ways of doing things, it always boils down to similarities and principles that can overlap into all other areas of life. So every time I talk about something with fitness, I find an overlap with everything else in life with it. So everything we talked about already so far, even with the diet and nutrition, it even applies to sleep as well. So all those habits. So you have to first ask yourself, why are you going to do the things you're doing the night before? It comes down to principles. So what type of benefit are you getting from doing X? Like, what's the result? So to give you an example, if I'm doing things before bed, my main focus is this. The reason I'm doing this is because it's going to affect my quality of sleep, which is the most important thing. So my sleep routine, it kind of comes back to everything else I do, is based around principles. So I always ask myself, what are the benefits I'm getting out of this? So if I give recommendations on what I do for my sleep routine, it might not give you the same benefits, but you should take the principles away from it and figure out what's going to help you get, the most pros, the most benefit for what it is that you're actually doing. So for me, the main thing I'm focusing on when I'm talking about my sleep schedule, my sleep routine, is what's going to give me the best quality sleep, because that's the most important thing I'm after when we're talking about sleep. So for me, there's a few things. Number one, if I'm going to get good quality sleep, I have to have a schedule where I go to sleep the exact same time, I wake up the exact same time every day. So whether that's the weekend, whether my schedule changed the following day, let's just say I have the morning to sleep in or I don't need to be up so early, I'm still going to get up at the same time. I'll make use of that free time the next day, but that schedule is going to allow me to it's going to, tell my body that it's time to go to sleep, it's time to wake up. It's also going to help me, be more productive the following day, which is very, very important. I work out early in the morning, so if my sleep schedule is off, it's going to impact the next workout. So I need to make sure that I stick with that routine. That's the main thing. A lot of things that I do pre-bed when we talk about the routine itself. Again, I like to do the same thing right before I go to bed every night, because that's going to tell my mind and my body it's time to go to sleep. For me, that's really, relaxing after dinner time. I have dinner 6:30, 7 o'clock, and then I mentally tell myself the time after dinner and the time I go to sleep, I'm unplugging. I have a very active mind, so it's very easy for me when I have free time. It's not good for me to have free time to do nothing, because I'll actually make myself more energetic by having free time, which is not good, especially pre-bed. So I have to do certain things to unwind. So I actually find myself doing things like putting my phone away, and I'll actually even like watch TV, or I'll like read, or I'll do anything that just keeps my mind occupied, but also tells me it's time to relax. And I think those are the two biggest things. When we talk about the sleep itself, for me, I have to sleep in a very cold environment. You know, a lot of people don't like to sleep in cold environments, but I can't. I sweat easily. I can't sleep in a hot environment. So if just that one thing is changed, it's going to throw off my sleep. So I would try to summarize it by saying, you know, sleep same time, pre-bed, same thing every single night. Sleep at the same temperature too. Sleep in the same environment, and you know, just make it a ritual so you don't have to think about it.
Yeah. What about from like so you mentioned like your last meal was that like 6? Well, I don't know if that's your last meal, but you ate dinner at 6:37. Is that the last thing you do like food wise? So what happens with that?
That changes a little bit, kind of depending on what I'm doing with my nutrition. So if I'm dieting, I might try to eat actually a little bit closer to bed, because again, that's going to be something that's going to throw off my sleep. You know, if I'm going to bed hungry, it's going to be hard for me to sleep, and that's not going to be good for fat loss either. You know, a lot of people think, oh, I can't eat too close to bed. You know, we've already established 1,000 times that that's not going to affect anything negatively if your total calories are accounted for. But if you're going to bed hungry because you said I can't eat after 6 o'clock, that's going to actually throw off your fat loss, because now you can't sleep well. Sleep's going to be very important for fat loss, recovery, your performance in the gym. So if you time it where you're going to bed at least somewhat content and you're not starving, you're going to sleep better. So if I'm dieting, I might try to have a small meal about an hour, maybe even 45 minutes before bed. Not a lot of calories, but just something so that my stomach feels satisfied. Right now, my calories are not low. My calories are very high, to the point where I'm not even interested in eating so much. So I actually prefer to eat a little bit earlier. So my last meal will be about 6:30, 7 o'clock. I'll go to sleep about 10. So my stomach is feeling good. You know, if I was cramming, that would also cause the same issue. If I was trying to gain weight and I was cramming calories in up into the point where I'm going to sleep, it's going to keep me up because I'm not going to feel good. So you have to look at all these factors and ask yourself, what gives me the optimal sleep?
You know, I read something recently, and I think you should take this advice too. They were saying that like if you eat a meal really close to bed, doesn't matter the size of the meal, that will trigger indigestion, because you're lying down and you're going to get indigestion without knowing it.
Right.
So if that's something that you suffered with before, they say you should probably back that meal out a little bit. But just some food for thought. I actually read that recently, and I thought that was like, oh, that makes sense actually.
Yeah, and you also need to take into account how all these things affect you. You know, for some people, you know, like I said, if I'm going to bed, you know, hungry from not eating for a few hours, I'm not going to sleep well. But some people don't like to feel anything in their system when they're trying to go to sleep, you know, so it depends. It's very similar to how some people don't like to have a large meal before they work out. Am I going to tell you this is the optimal way to do it? If you say, listen, I get better workouts because I like an empty stomach, go for it. You know, same thing with sleep.
Yeah, usually for me, I'm finished eating around 7. That's usually when I finish my last meals around that time. I finish up all my calories. Again, depends on the day, set between 7 and 8:30-ish. Again, like I said, depends on the day. So I usually try to finish all my calories then. Then it's usually like the kids' pre-bed rituals, so getting the kids ready for bed, baths, all that stuff. And usually my kids are in bed pretty early. So then my wife goes to bed pretty early. I mean, I go to bed pretty early too, but between like 7 and 9, even 10, I'm like by myself basically. So usually what I'll do is after my last meal, I'll get the kids ready for bed, and then my wife puts them to bed. I'll take the dogs for a walk. So I like to go on a nice walk, anywhere between 30 minutes and an hour. It helps you digest. It just puts me in a nice, like, good mood. I like walking. Good activity again. It depends on the weather too. If it's too cold, I might not go, or depends. Then I'll come back inside. At that point, now it's like 8:30, 8 o'clock, give or take the day. I will usually, a usual typical day is at this point then, I will take all my supplements before bed. So I usually just take all my supplements before bed because otherwise I forget. So I'll take like some zinc, vitamin D, whatever else supplement-wise that I might be taking. I usually take it at that time. This is why I have like an hour or two before I go to bed to, one, digest those things, and two, so I'm not like peeing in my sleep. So I'll do that at that time. And then this really handy feature from your phone, it literally will my phone will shut off all my apps at 10 o'clock. Like completely off. Everything. So that's really been helpful with making sure I go to bed. And if I am in bed or whatever, reading or whatever I'm doing at that time on my phone, it shuts it. And I also do on the iPhone has like that night shift where it turns everything on your screen orange to help like get rid of that bright light. That also has, I've done that for years. That has helped me so much like unwind. So usually then at that point I'll take all my supplements. Either I'll sit down and like watch like a show on TV for like 30 minutes, or I'll pre-plan my day out for the next day. So I'll take out like my book and I'll figure out, okay, what am I doing tomorrow? So I like to kind of have an idea of what I'm doing tomorrow. I'll do that. I'll let the dogs out again to go to the bathroom. I'll put them away. Now it's around 9 o'clock. I go upstairs, I brush my teeth, I get into bed, and I usually like to read something, so I'll read something, and that usually puts me to sleep pretty easily. So I'll read something. My room at night has to be pitch black. Like if there's a little bit of light, like my wife falls asleep with the TV on. I don't know how she does it. We get into a fight every night because I get into bed, she's snoring, and I shut the TV, and she wakes up while I was watching that. Like, tell me what the last thing that happened was. And then she laughs and rolls over. But it has to be pitch black for me. I actually bought like those stupid things that you put on. I forget what they're called on your face.
The nightshade?
I don't know. But
whatever. Here's what I found.
Oh, my Siri's talking. So what happens, my room, my bedroom, for whatever reason, I have like the high like skylights in the room. And if it's early in the morning, the sun blares in, so I have to put those, I'll take them out of the drawer and put them on, and I'll be able to sleep an extra hour or two because the light's not in my eyes.
Yeah.
But it has to be pitch black, and I like what you said, it has to be like colder. It definitely has to be colder.
Yeah.
And that's my routine, so I do that every day. I'm usually up by like either anywhere between 4:15 a.m. and like 4 o'clock a.m. to like 4:30, in that range I'm like getting up. And initially the first like couple weeks doing that was like rough, but your body gets used to it really, really quick. And by 8:30, 9 o'clock, I'm like, all right, it's time for bed.
Right.
It's time for bed. And that's like my main ritual. I take all my supplements before I go to sleep. My last meal is like 2 hours before bed. And then I get up in the morning, and we should kind of, because this all kind of ties in. Now you're sleeping for X amount of hours, you're in a catabolic state. I get up in the morning, and I try to have something protein right away to stop that breakdown of muscle tissue. So I'll have like either 1 or 2 scoops of protein, depending if I'm dieting. And then for me, I'm going right into the gym. I'll take some caffeine with that, or I'll do a pre-workout, one of our pre-workouts, pump you up. And then I'm off, and I'm working out by that time. So that's like my pre-bed morning ritual that I believe has helped me to build more muscle, to stay as lean as possible, completely recomp my physique, and also help me like mentally go about my day. I love training early in the morning like that. Well, maybe not at 4 a.m., but I love training first thing in the morning because it's over.
Right, yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest thing that it comes down to when we're talking about sleep and any type of results that you're going to get in fitness and bodybuilding is all going to come down to the routine that works for you the best, you know? And like I keep saying, there's comparisons to all these other things. When we talk about the training itself, when we talk about the sleep itself, the schedule, all these things, the best one is going to be the one that works for you and that you can follow consistently. So if somebody gives you this crazy sleep protocol where like, this is what you have to do every night, but it doesn't fit your lifestyle, it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work consistently, doesn't matter if it's the best way to do it, it's not going to work. Even if you take something that's, it's a little suboptimal, but it's something I can do consistently over and over again, you're going to get better results from that.
So I want to end with this. If you could make your specific routine better and eke out a little bit more muscle gain, what would you change?
I would say it's pretty, my sleep routine is very, very good. And I would say...
Not sleep, just like pre-bed, whatever, pre-bed.
The pre-bed, I would say probably having more time to actually unwind pre-bed, because I think for me personally, again, this is going to be very specific to the individual. For me personally, the one thing that throws off my sleep or the quality of sleep is if I have anything on my mind. So I have to get into a state of just being totally, not worrying about other things, not being, in my head, what's going on tomorrow, what happened before, what still needs to get done. So the best way for me would be to get into a complete state of just, okay, I'm just here in the moment now and I can focus on sleep, And it's very hard, you have things going on in life sometimes. You have a schedule and it's like something will pop up and it's like, now I need to worry about this tomorrow. Something happens the night before and you're like, holy shit, how am I going to do this tomorrow? That's all you're going to be thinking about before bed. And the more time for me at least that I have to unwind between the end of the day and sleep, the better, because then if something needs to be addressed, I can address it, then I can unwind and go to sleep. But if something comes up last minute, you can bet I'm probably going to stay up a few extra hours.
Yeah, Yeah, I think for me, I'm gonna go with something nutrition-wise that I think that would eke out a little bit more muscle, and that little like 0.5% that might matter. I would say having like a good, really slow digesting protein, like literally right before bed, I think would be ideal. Just the only thing is you don't want to have it with a lot of liquid, so you'd have to have it like, I would say like a good casein protein mixed in with like a little bit of like optimal world, like no matter what, this is what I'm doing every night right before bed. Just slow digesting protein. Again, you're going a long period of time without food. You're missing windows of opportunity to stimulate muscle protein synthesis. So I think optimal pre-bed nutrition, some form of slow digesting protein would be optimal. I'd probably say like 1 scoop, just to have something in there. But again, this is optimal world, like, I think that would be. I mean, if you really want to talk about like optimal, but then it might mess with your sleep, so it's like a catch-22 would be like if you got up in the middle of the night to use the restroom, having like a shake or whatever, if you got up.
Yeah. Well, see, that's a great example of when we talk about optimal versus real-life application and which produces better results, because let's just say you do get up every single night to use the bathroom. Like no matter what you do, even if you don't drink water, just like your body naturally wakes up and you want to be optimal, using that time to get another protein source in, that would probably be better than not doing it. But now, if you're a good sleeper and you're going to interrupt your sleep to get that protein, the cons of losing that good quality sleep to get that protein source are not going to play out in the real world the same way they would, like if we're talking about optimal on paper.
Well, that's why I said slow digesting before bed. I think it's optimal than that, but I've done that before where I've set an alarm and got up in the middle of the night, and I've done that.
That's a thing that's been around bodybuilding for a long time. I don't really think not many people follow that today. But the whole idea was, hey, you're losing out on a window where you could be eating more protein. So get up in the middle of the night, have the protein, go back to sleep. But then you realize, okay, this is affecting the quality of my sleep. The quality of sleep is much more important than that extra protein source.
Unless you had all the hours in the world to sleep, then it is a little different.
Yeah. Well, people have done a lot of experiments where, I forget what it's called, but there's like I don't know, I want to say it was like the sailor sleep schedule or something. I have to look it up, but they were talking about people that were at sea. Like when they're on.
I don't even want to know why you know this.
No, because it was a sleep thing. People were experimenting with it for performance. So I'm not really sure. I don't really know about when people go out on boats and they go to sea. But I don't think they sleep because they're sleeping in shifts. There's people. I'm going to sleep for 4 hours, then I'm going to get up. You're going to work, and people basically sleep. I even think it got to the point where people were sleeping like 1 or 2 hours at a time, multiple times a day. And they tried to do studies on it. They said, listen, how does it affect like performance and things like that? Even if we're sleeping a total of 8 hours, but it's broken up through multiple times in the day, it always resulted in poorer outcomes, So you got to find that sleep schedule that allows you to get the best quality of sleep, and generally that's uninterrupted sleep.
I agree, man. So let's close this out. This is a longer episode for you guys today. You guys love the long form content. It is here. So, getstrongnow.com.
oldschoolmassgame.com.
Pete and Anthony, New York Muscle Radio, and we're out.